Hello, this is Reshmi. Welcome to the quarantine hour of horror. Super scary stories for sleepovers. Written by Pearce and illustrated by Dwight. Dwight. Well, as you know, the movie Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was actually based upon a book. This isn't it, of course. Great stories. Haunted our childhood for decades at a time. Since I'm a 90s kid, I used to take that book from the library almost every Friday. It was very difficult to sleep at night, especially with those creepy illustrations. Then about 30 years later, revealing my age, it was made into a motion picture and I was actually fortunate enough to see it. As far as I'm concerned, it was a 10 out of 10. With slight different variations from the actual book, but it's very rare that movies actually capture the true essence of the book, and I was very proud of it. But I feel that this book, Super Scary Stories for Sleepovers, tends to get overlooked a lot, and you really don't hear much about this. So, being the quirky quirk that I am, I decided to rescue it and read some stories to you. There are about, say, 11 chapters. They're not all the same story. Each chapter talks about a different set of circumstances, and with each video I will tell you one chapter. This has been a part of my childhood, and I'm more than honored to make it a part of yours, and even your adulthood. We're all young at heart here. For the Quarantine Horror Hour, I, Reshmi, present Flesh and Blood. Charlie let out a huff when he saw the dark rain clouds in the sky. "Not today," he whined. "The guys and I were just to go out and play soccer." He was standing outside with his father, who was just ready to go to work. His father slammed the car door and rolled down the windows. "You'll just have to find something else to do inside." He paused for a second. "I've got an idea. There's a new exhibit from Egypt at the museum. Why don't you guys check it out?" "Thanks, Dad," Charlie said, unenthusiastically so. His father shrugged. "Well, I tried," he said, rolling up the windows and starting the car. Charlie watched his father drive off, then went inside and flopped down on a well-worn easy chair. The newspaper was on the coffee table, and Charlie absent-mindedly began to flip through it when an article about the Egyptian exhibit caught his eye. A moment later, he was on the phone with his friend Sean. "It sounds really cool," he said excitedly. "It's a real mummy on loan to the Single Falls History Museum. And get this. The article says that the mummy was some royal person who got into big trouble and was cursed." Sean snickered. "Yeah, right." Then he let out a big sigh. "Well, there's nothing else better to do here." Within an hour, Charlie and Sean were waiting in the lobby of the museum. Sean had also called his friend Gordon and Christy to join them, and the two were already there. "Hey guys," said Gordon, a lanky boy wearing jeans and a sweatshirt. "Hey Gordon," Sean responded. "Hey Christy," he called to a young girl pushing her way through the turnstile. Christy grinned. "So let's go see this creepy mummy." Maybe he's cute. He was a royal after all. The museum was made up of 5 separate wings. The Egyptology wing had scale models of the pyramids and displays of ancient Egypt relics. In the middle of the room was the mummy, and the kids made a beeline for it. "Whoa, cool!" Gordon exclaimed, leaning over the railing. The sarcophagus was tilted up, making it easier for the kids to see the dry, shriveled body inside. "Ugh, gross," said Christy, turning away. The mummy was the dark color of swamp mud. Bits of rotted cloth hung from it, and few wiry tufts of hair seemed plastered to the grinning skull. "Ugh, yep," Charlie said with a smile. "There he is, in the flesh, so to speak." Christy giggled at Charlie's joke, then went over to read the sign on the wall. "It says here that he was an Egyptian prince. It seems he was a nasty character, and a lot of people disappeared during his reign." "Ick!" she shrieked in disgust. "He was accused of draining the blood from others. It says he thought that the life force of his victims would keep him young, so he could live forever. When he got caught, they killed him by draining all the way of his blood. Freaky. Sean gazed in awe at the dry corpse. So much for living forever. He's as dead as his doornail. Gordon widened his eyes. Maybe not. Perhaps, he kidded in a deep, heavily accented voice. Perhaps he's really sleeping. And when the moon is full, he will awake and take his revenge. The others chuckled, and Gordon drew one arm into his chest, held the other arm out, and limped his stiff leg towards Christy. Go away, you idiot, she laughed, pushing him away. Charlie stared at the mummy. Maybe Gordon's onto something, he mused. Christy shook her head. They dug up this guy nearly a year ago. He hasn't moved a muscle, full moon or not. Maybe conditions weren't right, Gordon said half seriously. Or maybe he really does get out of his coffin and stalk the city at night. No one can really know for sure, as they don't watch him every minute. So who is to say? Yes, there is, Charlie said enthusiastically. We could stay overnight in this museum and watch him. Looks like the old guy could use some company. Gordon shook his head. Nah, my mom expects me to be home by dinner time. Besides, the guards won't let us stay here all night. You can call your mom and say you're spending time at my house. We can all come up with some story, Charlie reasoned. And those guards won't be any problem. We can hide in the restroom until they lock up. The museum doesn't even have a night watchman. Just a guard service that drives every now and then. I know because my Uncle Arlo works for the service. Christy didn't seem too convinced. What if we want to get out? Charlie grinned. There's a window by the delivery entrance. Arlo's company complained that he found it open a couple of times. I'll just check to make sure if it isn't latched. But the alarm system will go off if we go through the window, Gordon pointed out. So what? Sean said, grinning. We'll be long gone before anyone can catch us. I say we do it. Come on, Charlie coaxed. It'll be fun. Gordon and Christy looked at each other hesitantly and nodded. Then they each went off to call home. The guard opened the bathroom door and stepped inside for a final check before closing the night. Standing on the toilet in the last stall, Charlie held his breath. Finally, the guard let the door swing shut, and Charlie let out a big sigh. Sean and Gordon in the stalls on either side of him did the exact same thing. They waited a few more moments. Then Sean tiptoed to the door and peered out. He's gone, Sean whispered hoarsely. Then all of a sudden drew back. Something's coming! The boys pressed themselves against the wall as the door swung slowly open. Having fun? Christy peeked around all of them. You guys look very pale. Very funny, Charlie muttered. Look, it's getting dark. Maybe we could find some of the guards' flashlights or something. I don't feel like sitting around in here if I can't see anything. I've got a pen light on my keychain, Gordon offered. We can use it to go through the storage closets. After a search through a couple of closets, Gordon's idea paid off, and the four of them now shared 2 flashlights. It sure looks different here now in the dark, Gordon murmured as they made their way through the Egyptology wing. It's really spooky. A dim light glowed here, and there were from various wall displays. It was definitely spooky, especially with each one of their footsteps echoing on the ceramic tile floor. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea, Sean muttered. Suddenly, Christy froze. What was that? She cried out. Sean turned his flashlight in the direction of a rustling sound. The beam fell on a huge shimmering face with blood-red eyes and sharply pointed teeth. Yeah! Gordon yelled. Chill out, Charlie shot back. It's only a mask on the wall. He passed his light around the edge of the image so that everyone could see it. One feather was moving slightly, creating the rustling sound. There must be some air coming in from a vent or something. He was really trying to slow down his rapidly beating heart. Well,